I am 89 years old, and if you've lived on this earth as long as I have, you know that time doesn't just fly away. It sits. It settles in the corners of the ceiling. It hides in the cracks between the floorboards, and it stays. I've been sitting in this same house in Levittown for 68 years. Same kitchen, same window. I've watched the seasons change and the world turn gray through this one pane of glass since 1958. I need to tell you about Arthur, because for 53 years I carried his secret like a heavy stone in my mouth, and I'm tired. I am so very tired of carrying it. Arthur and I got married on June 12, 1958, at the Grace Methodist Church. I was 21, a girl with hope sewn into the hem of her white dress. Arthur was 23, and Lord, he was the most handsome man I'd ever laid eyes on. He had that clean-cut, post-war smile that made you feel safe, the kind of man you'd see on a recruitment poster and trust with your life. We moved into this house, 2 bedrooms. We had Robert in 60, Denise in 62, Sharon in 65, and Michael in 69. 4 children in a small suburban home. Somehow, we made it work. When you're young and in love, you think that love is enough to pay the mortgage and keep the garden blooming. But let me tell you something from the vantage point of nearly a century. Love is not enough. Love without honesty is just a pretty room with no floor. You're standing there, admiring the floral wallpaper, not realizing you're about to fall straight through into the cold, dark dirt. Arthur worked at the steel mill for 31 years. He'd come home every night smelling like smoke and grease, the scent of an honest American life. He coached Little League on Saturdays. He was a senior elder at our church. People would point to him at town picnics and say, "Now that's a real family man right there." And he was. He was good to those children. He was generous to the neighbors. He was everybody's favorite person. But the men everybody loves, sometimes they've got that much love going around because they're spreading it in places they have no business spreading it. October 1980. I remember it because Sharon was sitting right there at the kitchen table, making her Halloween costume. She wanted to be a princess, sequins everywhere. Arthur was supposed to be at a lodge meeting. He'd been having a lot of those meetings lately. Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, Saturday mornings. Now, I am not a fool. A woman knows when the air in her own house changes. They'll tell you you're crazy. They'll tell you you're imagining ghosts. But a woman knows the smell of a lie. I went through his trench coat pockets. 22 years of marriage, and I'd never done that. I'm not proud of it, but I did it. And I found a photograph. A little boy, maybe 5 years old, standing in front of a brick building. On the back, in Arthur's handwriting, the same handwriting that signed my Valentine's cards, it said, "Curtis, age 6, April 1974. I didn't scream. I didn't smash the china. I just looked at that photograph and thought, so this is what 22 years of loyalty gets you. Arthur came home at 11:30. I was sitting in the dark. When he saw me holding that photo, his face just collapsed. Like watching a house of cards fall in slow motion, Arthur didn't even try to deny it. He fell to his knees on this very linoleum floor. Her name was Vera. She lived in the next county over, 40 minutes away. He'd been seeing her since 1972. Curtis was born in 74. My husband had a 6-year-old son, a whole separate life, and he'd been going back and forth between 2 families like he was punching a clock. Finding out about Vera wasn't what changed me. It was what I chose to do about it. I should have left, I know that's what the world says now, but it was 1980. I was 43 with 4 children. I had no career, no credit in my own name, and a reputation to uphold. If I divorced Arthur, the town would have whispered that I was the failure. So I stayed. But I made conditions. He signed the house over to me. He put $200 a month into a private account, and he promised never to see them again. But I became a different woman that night. I got hard. I became the warden. I watched every phone call, every late arrival, every penny. I ran this house with an iron fist because I was terrified that if I blinked, the facade would crumble. My children didn't understand why Mama was always angry, always suspicious, always cold. Robert once said to my face, "Dad's the one who holds this family together, not you." He was 12. I wanted to grab him and scream, "You have no idea what I am holding together. I am the only thing standing between you and the truth about your hero." But I just told him to go do his homework. Denise was the one who cut the deepest. She was 20, getting ready for a date, and she said, "Mom, why are you so mean? Dad never acts like this. What happened to you?" What happened to me? I was standing guard over the lies she took for granted. And you know what I found out later? Arthur never stopped seeing them. The money he was giving me, he was giving Vera more. He looked me in the eyes, cried on my kitchen floor, and walked right back to her the following week. He played me for 36 more years. I turned myself into a villain. I let my children grow to dislike me, all for a man who didn't even have the decency to be reformed. He let me carry the burden of the bitter wife while he played the saintly father. Arthur died in 2019, a heart attack. The whole town turned out for the funeral. They called him a pillar. I sat in the front pew and I did not cry, not one tear. Denise whispered, "It's okay to cry, Mom." I said, "I know." But I'd used up all my tears 36 years before. He died a hero, and I was left as the cold, grieving widow that no one quite knew how to comfort. After he passed, my children drifted. They moved to other states, other lives. Denise stayed close, but she visited less and less. Our conversations were about blood pressure and weather, empty words to fill the silence. I've been alone in this house for 7 years. Most days, the only voice I hear is my own. And let me tell you, you do not want to be the only person listening to yourself at 89. 4 weeks ago, a Saturday morning, someone knocked on my door. I don't get visitors. I opened it, and there was a man, 52 years old, graying at the temples. And I knew him before he opened his mouth because he had Arthur's eyes. He looked like Arthur the day I married him. He was standing on my porch wearing my husband's face. He said, "Ma'am, my name is Curtis. I believe my father was Arthur Davis." I stood there for a long time. Then I said, "I know who you are. Come inside." Curtis sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I found that photo in '80, and he told me everything. Vera died years ago. Arthur had been there for every milestone. Curtis had photos of Arthur at his graduation, his wedding, the birth of his children. My husband attended another woman's son's wedding while I was sitting here in Levittown, waiting for him to come home. But the real twist wasn't the photos. It was the box Curtis brought, a shoebox full of letters. Inside was one Arthur wrote in 2018, just a year before he died. It was addressed to Curtis. It said, "Pearl deserved the truth. I was too much of a coward to give it to any of them. I let her become the monster so I could stay the man everyone admired. I am sorry, son, for the shadows I forced you both to live in. Coward, his own word. I looked at Curtis, and I didn't feel the fire of anger anymore. I felt a cold, heavy sorrow. Arthur hadn't just cheated on me. He had used my strength to hide his weakness. He had allowed our children to see me as the mean parent so he could keep his halo. He had stolen my joy and replaced it with a warden's badge, and he did it knowing exactly what it would cost me. Curtis looked at me and said, "I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just wanted to know the woman who kept him." I realized then that Curtis had been waiting for me just as long as I had been waiting for him. He was a child who grew up in the shadows, while my children grew up in a light that was nothing but a flickering candle. I called Denise that evening. I told her everything. 53 years of secrets broken open over 2 cups of cold coffee. She didn't speak for a long time. The silence was so heavy I thought the phone had gone dead. Then she said, "So all those years, that's why you were so hard on us. You were holding the world up." She started crying, not the polite kind, but the kind that comes from the gut, from a place you didn't know was holding anything. She said, "Mom, I told you to your face that Dad was the good one. I said that to you." I said, "I know, baby, I know." She asked why I didn't tell them, and I told her the only honest thing I had left. Because I wanted you to have a father, even if it cost you a mother. I thought if I took the heat, you could keep the warmth. She grabbed my hands across the table. My daughter hasn't held my hands like that in years. Robert called the next day. He was quiet. He said, "Mom, I owe you an apology. I spent 40 years thinking you were the problem. I'm so sorry." That one I felt in my bones. Michael hasn't called yet. He was Arthur's boy through and through. I imagine the truth feels like the floor was pulled out from under him. He's 64, and he just realized his foundation was built on sand. I understand that. I lived it for over half a century. But I'm 96. I do not have the luxury of waiting for everyone to be ready. Time is the one thing I am almost out of. Denise comes every Saturday now. We don't just talk about blood pressure. We do the crossword together. She's terrible at it, honestly, but I don't tell her that. Robert is driving down next month with his grandchildren. I'm about to meet my great-grandchildren for the first time at 96 years old. If that doesn't tell you what secrets do to a family, nothing will. They rob you of the years you can never get back. I've spent 75 years on this street. Same kitchen, same window. But when Denise holds my hands, I'm not the warden anymore. I'm not the mean one. I'm not Arthur's wife. I'm just Mom. And for the first time in 53 years, I don't have to watch the door. The floor is solid, the air is clear, and I have been waiting a very long time to just breathe.